Andrew Barry's decision-making is now under the microscope, and Shedeur Sanders is at the center of the storm. After drafting Dillon Gabriel and watching him underperform weekly, the general manager's refusal to pivot now appears less like strategic patience and more like organizational negligence. Sanders remains benched, not because of readiness, but because admitting past mistakes would mean ceding control.
If you're into the real story and all the messy twists they don't show on highlight reels, go ahead and subscribe. And if you're sticking around to see how this Browns QB chaos plays out, you should definitely be subscribed.
As media scrutiny intensifies and frustration mounts in the locker room, the front office's blind spots have become impossible to ignore. The message being sent isn't about trust in the process. It's about protecting pride at all costs. This isn't just a squandered season. It's a slow bleed of everything a franchise should protect: its talent, its credibility, and its future. The longer Sanders remains on the bench, the more his growth stagnates and the less salvageable Cleveland's direction becomes. This isn't a quarterback dilemma. It's a leadership crisis, and it's playing out in real time. The Cleveland Browns are unraveling right in front of us, and this time, it's not about bad luck or a brutal schedule or even injuries. No, this is about ego, control, and one franchise's stunning inability to get out of its own way. At the center of it all, Shedeur Sanders, a rookie quarterback with generational pedigree, market power, and untapped potential, is wasting away on the bench while the Browns, sitting at 2-6, continue to self-destruct behind a starter who's barely treading water. The team is losing. The fans are furious. The media is circling. And still, the people in charge are digging in their heels, clinging to a quarterback decision that's clearly failing. Let's not gloss over what's really going on here. This isn't about injury management. It's not about development. This is about fear. Fear that giving Shedeur a real shot might expose everything the Browns have done wrong this season. Because if he goes out there and succeeds, the excuses collapse. The lies don't hold. And the power structure they've built around playing it safe takes a direct hit. We're not talking about a small misstep. This is a full-blown organizational implosion in slow motion. Insiders have already confirmed what many suspected. Kevin Stefanski wanted Shedeur to start. Not just considered it, pushed for it. He saw what the offense had become under Dillon Gabriel, a stagnant, risk-averse unit running on fumes. Gabriel's underwhelming numbers aren't just a product of bad luck. They're a direct reflection of a system built on avoiding mistakes instead of creating opportunities. Less than 60% completion. Multiple safeties. A passing attack so cautious, it's basically invisible. And yet week after week, he starts. The Browns could have made the pivot. They could have acknowledged that Gabriel isn't progressing and opened the door for their rookie to take the reins. But instead, they stalled. They invented a vague injury for Shedeur. A phantom issue with no timetable, no medical clarity, and no public explanation. Just enough ambiguity to avoid the real conversation. Why is Shedeur being sidelined when this team is clearly falling apart? And that's where the conspiracy theory starts to feel less like speculation and more like reality. Because there's a credible belief, within league circles and fan circles alike, that the Browns' leadership doesn't want Shedeur to play. Not yet. Maybe not at all this season. Not because he's not ready, but because they're terrified of what his presence might disrupt. That disruption? Control. Sanders brings energy. A very different presence than Gabriel. He's not just a quarterback. He's a name, a brand, and a rising figure with NFL bloodlines. If he takes over the offense and outshines Gabriel, it changes the power dynamics overnight. Stefanski's grip loosens. The front office's decisions come under fire. The locker room takes notice. And most damning of all, the team has to admit it got it wrong. That's what this is really about. And it's not just Stefanski. General Manager Andrew Barry is in the hot seat too. His choices, from the Gabriel draft investment to personnel moves that have backfired, are stacking up against him. When you draft a quarterback early, double down on him, and then watch him stall an entire offense, the spotlight lands directly on the person who made that call. But instead of course-correcting, the front office is trying to protect the narrative. They're clinging to the idea that Gabriel still has upside, still deserves time, still fits the system. Meanwhile, that system is sinking, and they're dragging Sanders down with it. This isn't just poor management. It's ego-fueled sabotage. What's worse is how transparent it's become. The local media isn't even being subtle anymore. They're openly questioning why Shedeur remains benched. The national media is starting to sniff around too. And fans? They're done waiting. They're done being gaslit into thinking that stability is a reason to leave talent on the bench during a lost season. And now there's another wrinkle: Deshaun Watson. Reports around his eventual return only make this more complicated. If Watson comes back and Shedeur is still benched, that sends a clear message: he's not even second in line. If he's still being held out after the season is mathematically over, then you know this isn't about football anymore. It's about narrative control. And if the Browns keep trying to control the story, they're going to lose something far more important: their quarterback. Because here's the truth: Sanders has leverage. He doesn't need to suffer in silence. He comes from a high-profile football family. His father is Deion Sanders. This is a player with reach, resources, and a built-in platform. If the Browns keep dragging this out, keep delaying his development, devaluing his time, and mismanaging his role, the Sanders camp will speak out. And when they do, it's going to shift the conversation completely. Right now, it's still football talk. Schemes. Development plans. System fit. But the moment Deion speaks, or even hints at discontent, this becomes a franchise crisis. Because now it's not just about performance. It's about transparency. It's about opportunity. It's about a player who wasn't just overlooked, but deliberately sidelined to protect people who didn't want to admit they were wrong. And what's the cost of that? Reps lost. Growth stalled. A rookie season that could have been used to build chemistry, create momentum, and evaluate long-term potential has been turned into a waste. And the message it sends to Shedeur? This franchise didn't believe in you, not because of your talent, but because of their fear. That kind of damage doesn't just go away. Players remember when they're benched for political reasons. They remember when they're told to be patient while the season collapses. They remember when every logical sign pointed to them getting the call, and instead, they were sidelined without explanation. If the Browns think this story ends quietly, they're wrong. Because the pressure is building. The media is watching. The fans are boiling. And if Cleveland doesn't act soon, they're not just risking the rest of the season, they're risking Shedeur. And it won't take much for this to escalate. One leak, one tweet, one podcast appearance, one comment from Deion. And suddenly, the story becomes, how did the Browns screw this up again? So here we are. The Browns are at a crossroads, again. And every decision they've made this season has brought them here. To a 2-6 record. To a quarterback they can't defend. To a rookie they refuse to play. And to a fan base that's one more bad decision away from checking out completely. Start Shedeur now, and they might save face. They might restore a shred of confidence in the direction of the team. They might get a real look at the future they're supposedly building. Keep him on the bench? Keep hiding behind the injury? Keep pretending Gabriel is the guy? Then they'll deserve every headline, every boo, every question, and every ounce of scrutiny they get. Let me know what you think. Is this the most Browns situation of all time? Should Shedeur have already started? Do you think the coaching staff is scared of what success might look like if he's under center? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Hit like if you're done watching talent get wasted. Share this with every Browns fan who's tired of the cycle. And subscribe if you want the full breakdown when the house finally burns down. Because with the way this is headed, the real fireworks haven't even started yet. It's honestly unbelievable how predictable this is. Every single time the Cleveland Browns show a glimpse of potential, a sliver of hope, or dare we say it, competence, they find a way to implode. And this time, they've managed to do it with a potential franchise quarterback on the roster, just waiting for a shot. But instead of building around Shedeur Sanders, instead of handing him the keys while the season is spiraling, they've benched him with a mystery injury no one can explain, behind a quarterback who's putting up numbers that wouldn't even fly in preseason. Let's call this what it is: cowardice. The Browns are hiding behind injury reports and development timelines because they're afraid of the truth. They're afraid of putting Shedeur out there and finding out that he's better than the guy they drafted to be the guy. Because if Shedeur plays well, it changes everything, and they know it. Kevin Stefanski reportedly wanted Shedeur to start. That's been reported by multiple outlets. He begged, but his request didn't go through. That tells you one thing clearly: this is no longer about coaching decisions. This is about internal politics. Front office damage control. People protecting their image, their draft picks, and their organizational clout at the expense of the season. And at the expense of Shedeur Sanders. Because here's the part no one wants to talk about. Keeping a player like Shedeur benched isn't just a bad football decision. It's damaging his career. This is a guy who came in with expectations. With pedigree. With a spotlight. The kind of player you develop in real time. You let him take his lumps. You build the playbook around his strengths. You let him grow into the system while the defense holds things down. But what did the Browns do? They parked him. They invented an injury to keep him off the field. They kept running Dillon Gabriel out there, despite a completion rate that's barely functional, despite blown reads, safeties, and absolutely zero rhythm on offense. Gabriel isn't failing because of the system. He's failing because he isn't ready. And instead of acknowledging that and pivoting like a real team would, the Browns doubled down. Because they can't admit they got it wrong. They'd rather sink with their draft mistake than swim with a quarterback who might just be the future. It's almost poetic in the most dysfunctional way. And now, with the team at 2-6 and every sign screaming for change, they're still holding the line. Still insisting Gabriel's managing the offense. Still pretending Shedeur needs more time. Still talking about Deshaun Watson like he's the magical reset button, when in reality, he's another layer of uncertainty in a situation that's already off the rails. Let's talk about Watson for a second. Whether or not he returns this season, the Browns are now boxed in. If he comes back, do you sit Gabriel and make Shedeur QB3 again? If Watson doesn't return, and the Browns still refuse to start Shedeur, what message does that send? That he's third on the depth chart behind a struggling backup and an injured starter? That's not just mismanagement. That's reputational sabotage. And what about Shedeur's value? Not just as a player, but as an asset. The longer he stays benched, the more the league questions him. The more fans forget what he's capable of. The more analysts start to wonder if there's something wrong the Browns aren't saying. There is something wrong. But it's not Shedeur, it's the franchise. It's the leadership that would rather be strategically cautious than aggressive. It's the general manager more concerned with optics than outcomes. It's a coaching staff shackled by a front office that's afraid of disruption. And it's that exact fear that's going to push Shedeur, his camp, and eventually, maybe even Deion Sanders himself, to force the issue. Because if you think the Sanders family is going to sit quietly while this continues, you haven't been paying attention. Deion Sanders isn't just a football legend. He's a media machine. He controls the conversation whenever he wants to. And if this mess in Cleveland drags on, and Shedeur is still sitting, still injured, still not getting a single rep while the season burns, Deion will speak. The family will move. And when that happens, this story goes from bad coaching to national embarrassment. And it will be deserved. Because we're not talking about a team protecting a rookie during a playoff push. This is a team crashing while voluntarily keeping a talented quarterback locked out of the building. And at some point, the fans won't just want answers. They'll want change. A new coach. A new GM. A new direction. Something, anything, to signal that the Browns actually care about winning instead of just managing PR. Let's not sugarcoat this. The Browns are already a league-wide punchline. The quarterback jersey meme is still floating around. And what they're doing to Shedeur only adds to that legacy of incompetence. A real team would have made the switch by now. A real team would have put Shedeur in, evaluated him over the back half of the season, and given their fans a reason to care. A real team would have admitted that Dillon Gabriel is not the answer. But Cleveland? Cleveland's pretending like this is all part of the plan. And let's be honest, how many plans have the Browns had over the last decade? How many regimes? How many quarterbacks? How many rebuilds? This isn't year one of a vision. This is year infinity of excuses. And the fans know it. You can't sell development while refusing to develop your most promising player. You can't preach accountability while protecting your worst performers. You can't act like the locker room is united when every player sees the politics on full display. Because players do notice. They see Shedeur at practice. They know what he brings to the table. And when he's being held back for reasons that have nothing to do with performance, it creates fractures. Quiet ones, maybe, but real ones. And that's how locker rooms turn on leadership. That's how coaches lose teams. And we're already hearing rumblings. That Stefanski is losing influence. That players are frustrated. That the front office isn't aligned with the coaching staff. This is how it always starts. The Browns have been here before, and yet, they're doing it again. They're not just mishandling a quarterback. They're mishandling the moment. A moment that could have been used to pivot, to reset, to try something different, to finally break the cycle of dysfunction. Instead, they're committing to the same safe, scared approach that's kept them irrelevant for years. And that's not just a wasted opportunity, it's a tragedy. Because Shedeur Sanders has done nothing wrong. He was drafted. He came in. He worked. He waited. He stayed silent. And now he's being punished not for performance, but for politics. For disrupting the order. For threatening the status quo. That's not how you build a franchise. That's how you lose one. At this point, it's not even about Shedeur Sanders starting. It's about why he hasn't already. It's about the staggering disconnect between what's happening on the field and what the Browns refuse to do about it. They're 2-6. The season isn't just slipping away, it's gone. Any talk of playoffs, wild cards, or even evaluating for the postseason is dead on arrival. The only thing left to fight for is development, momentum. And yet, Shedeur still sits. Still waiting. Still silent. Still the only quarterback on that roster who hasn't been given a real chance to lead an offense that desperately needs a reset. Every loss with Dillon Gabriel under center makes this more absurd. Every drive that ends in a 3-and-out. Every missed read. Every throw that flutters short of the sticks. The stats speak for themselves. Gabriel hasn't been a spark plug, he's been a kill switch. His play hasn't just been rookie inconsistent, it's been outright ineffective. And when your starter can't execute, and your backup is a highly drafted, high-upside quarterback with everything to prove, how do you not pull the trigger? Because the truth is, the Browns aren't just hesitant. They're paralyzed. Paralyzed by fear of embarrassment. Paralyzed by the need to justify previous decisions. Paralyzed by the thought that Shedeur Sanders might not just be good, he might be better than the guy they've been trying to prop up for the last 8 games. And if that happens, if Shedeur comes in, finds a rhythm, and breathes life into this stale offense, the questions write themselves. Why did it take this long? Why was he benched in the first place? Who was really making the calls behind the scenes? That's the nightmare scenario for this regime, not that Shedeur might struggle, but that he might succeed. And they'd have to own the fact that they held him back, not because it was right, but because it was safe. And when you run a football team like that, you're not building anything. You're just delaying the collapse. There's a reason this is turning into one of the most scrutinized QB situations in the league. It's not just about Cleveland being Cleveland, it's about what this says about leadership in the NFL. The Browns aren't just protecting a broken system, they're wasting valuable reps, wasting time, and most importantly, wasting a quarterback's rookie window. Because whether Shedeur ends up being the guy or not, you still need to find out. You need film. You need real NFL snaps. You need to throw him into a live game and let him take hits, make throws, and show what he's made of. That's how quarterbacks grow. That's how you evaluate. But instead, the Browns are choosing silence. Vague injuries. No updates. No accountability. And it's driving fans insane. You've got people showing up to games just to boo the offense. You've got media asking questions they already know won't be answered. And you've got a front office acting like it's still week 2 and not a season already on life support. It's beyond frustrating, it's insulting. And for Shedeur, this isn't just a lost opportunity, it's a career complication. Because let's be honest, if this keeps going and he never gets his shot, his name will be floated in trade rumors. His camp will start to consider other teams, other options. And when that happens, Cleveland loses more than a player, they lose their chance. Their chance to build around a quarterback with swagger, with pedigree, with a football IQ that's been sharpened since birth. They lose the future for the sake of protecting the past. And all it's going to take is one spark to blow the lid off. One interview. One Instagram post. One podcast appearance. The moment Shedeur, or worse for the Browns, Deion Sanders, decides to speak on what's happening, this goes nuclear. Because people will listen. The Sanders family doesn't whisper, they announce. They don't play politics, they pressure. And right now, the Browns are hoping that staying quiet will delay that moment. But it won't. Because every game Shedeur doesn't play adds fuel to the fire. Every week they try to avoid the conversation, they make it louder. You can't spin 2 to 6. You can't defend benching a potential franchise quarterback when the guy ahead of him is sinking your season. You can't hide behind the process when the process looks like sabotage. At this point, the question isn't if change is coming, it's when and who it takes down with it. Will it be Kevin Stefanski? If he's really been pushing to play Shedeur and getting stonewalled by upper management, then he's either going to walk or get blamed for something he didn't control. Will it be Andrew Berry? If this was his draft board, his quarterback room, and his development plan, then the pressure is already building, and fans aren't going to forget it. Or will it be both? Because you don't sit on a 2 to 6 record, ignore your most exciting prospect, and survive the offseason without answering to someone. And here's the thing, this team still could save face. They could rip the Band-Aid off, start Shedeur, and at least show they're willing to try something new. Show that they're not married to their mistakes. Show that they haven't completely abandoned the idea of progress. Let him play. Let him fail. Let him learn. Because even if it's ugly, it's better than this weird, lifeless loop of post-game platitudes and midweek excuses. But the longer they wait, the less any of that will matter. Because once Shedeur is gone, whether physically or emotionally checked out, there's no getting him back. And if he does get traded, or publicly requests one, the Browns will become the story again. Not for a win. Not for a breakout. But for being the team that drafted a Sanders and still found a way to screw it up. Let me know what you think. Have the Browns already lost Shedeur behind the scenes? Do you believe he'll eventually start this season? Or is this heading straight for a messy, public split? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Like this video if you're over the Browns quarterback circus. Share it with someone who still thinks this is part of some brilliant plan. And hit that subscribe button. Because if Cleveland keeps choosing fear over football, this saga's going to get a whole lot worse before it gets better.